Hello subscribers old and new, and welcome to this LMM 25,000 subscribers special part 2, which is actually being released now. We're into 26,000 subscribers because it's taken me that long to actually produce this video that another 1,000 of you wonderful people have managed to discover the channel. So thank you. We are absolutely blown away by the amount of support that is coming from you guys behind the camera. Without you guys, well, we're nothing. And the more of you that find our channel and support us, the bigger we can get and the more we can do, the more content we can bring to you, the more exciting things we can do, and the more opportunities to provide, well, slightly different and hopefully entertaining content we can provide. And we are just repeatedly blown away by the community that's building up around the channel. You guys are awesome. We are absolutely loving this, and the fact that you guys love us, it's an amazing feeling. So thank you all guys, you're all absolutely wonderful. So I think at this moment it's probably a good idea for you to give yourselves a pat on the back because you're awesome. Thank you guys. Now if you cast your minds back to a few weeks ago, I released a video asking you guys, what would you like to know from us? What questions would you like answered? What things don't you know? And a lot of you guys responded. In fact, an awful lot of you guys responded, so many in fact that we had to split this down into 2 videos. Now the first part you'll probably already seen, and they were the questions which were aimed towards the team as a whole, or at least questions that the whole team could answer. This one are the more Lawrie centric questions, railways, stuff that I like, and stuff about me. So that's what this is going to be. Now there isn't anybody else here to stop me rambling on, so at this point I think it's only fair that I warn you that this one is going to be a long video. There are 52 questions, and even if I manage to keep it kind of condensed and to a minute a question, that would be almost an hour, and I'm aware that I'm already rambling my way through the opening. So I suggest guys, join me in a drink, pour yourself a nice beverage, doesn't mean if it's a cup of tea or a beer or whatever your tipple is. Draw yourself up a nice comfortable chair and sit down and get comfortable, because this is going to be quite a long one. It's going to be the longest LMM episode to date. And with that, cheers to you guys. Thank you very much. Let's get on with the questions. The first question on my aptly called An Hour with Lawrie. Can I do a Lawrie Goes Loco episode on Sirapite? It's probably unlikely that I'm going to feature Sirapite, mainly because it's not meant to stay at the Mid-Suffolk Light Railway for much longer, or at least it wasn't before all this thing happened, and that its home railway at the Leiston Long Shop, well, they've got less track there than the railway my Ruston visited, the Leiston Works Railway, so there isn't really enough there to do enough with it to give you a review. You've got the thing moving and then you have to stop again, so that one probably won't happen. However, I am at the moment organising, and it was meant to have happened already, some other Aveling and Porter overtype engines. So hopefully one of its sisters, or hopefully more than one of its sisters, will be turning up on the channel in the future, if everything goes as planned. So you won't see Sirapite, but you will see one of its sisters, hopefully. The mighty second question. What was it about the Ruston 48DS that made me want to buy her? Well, I'd rather fancied having a locomotive for quite some time, and there are a number of factors that I had to kind of think about. I knew that I wanted to take it to the Mid-Suffolk Light Railway because it's my home railway and I've been a part of it now for over a decade. So it had to suit the Mid-Suffolk Light Railway look. It had to be something that kind of fitted in there. And also the railway closed in 1952, and as a result there's nothing there that has been built after the MIDI closed. It's all theoretically could have run on the original MIDI. So it had to be something like that. And then the other thing was I wanted to own a locomotive on my own. I wanted to have my own locomotive and be able to look after it and manage it by myself. I didn't want to be part of a group. I didn't want to be part of a team. So it had to be something that realistically you could look after on your own. And most big engines, in fact anything of decent size, realistically it can't be done on your own. You need to be part of a team. So that put a big limit on it. And then of course I'd always rather liked Ruston 48s. I just like the shape of them. They're really just a quite pretty diminutive machine. They've got just well proportioned. It's a good looking thing, but it's still kind of got that kind of cheeky kind of sense of power about it. I just always thought they were rather nice. And so I'd always kind of liked the Ruston 48. It is one of the smallest standard gauge locomotives ever produced in the UK. It's got this kind of diminutive charm to it. It's a cute thing, but it's also kind of it's got a sense of purpose to it. They're just very attractive little engines. And so it's always been something I'd quite fancied. And then most importantly, a Ruston 48 took up the Mid-Suffolk Light Railway. After it closed in 1952, all the track was removed and there was no trace of the railway left. And a Ruston 48 pulled that demolition train. So it is the only diesel that ever ran on the Mid-Suffolk Light Railway. And as the railway is getting an extension, yes, it's going to get longer, which is going to be brilliant. I thought it would be absolutely fitting if I could get a Ruston 48 to go to the Mid-Suffolk Light Railway to help relay the extension, to help undo the damage that one of its sisters did. And that's the main reason I was looking for one. I thought they were great, and I just wanted to fit in there. Yeah. So that's basically why I was looking for a 48. I wanted it to go to the MIDI. It would be appropriate at the MIDI. And it's something that I could do myself. I could look after it.
Question the third. What is your favourite engine that you have covered on Lawrie Goes Loco?
My favourite engine that I've covered so far, out of stuff that you've seen, it's got to be the Austerity in Belgium, because it was a absolutely phenomenally good condition member of the class. The owners just look after it so amazingly well, and everything about it was just spot on. It was beautifully in time, nothing leaked. There was no particular... Lots of engines I've worked on, whether they've appeared on the channel or I've driven them, you have to do things in a particular way. You have to ease them about. You know, you have to, for instance, open the regulator, wait for it to go clonk, bang, cling, and then it will start moving. Whereas that Austerity was just fantastic. It was an absolute pleasure. And I was on one day with the owner's father, and we had a lovely day. And the other day I was on was with the owner and his partner, and we had a absolutely phenomenal day. It was just fun. So I really enjoyed being able to fire the engine. I was able to drive it. It was a lovely day on a lovely engine. There are some things coming up which may take my favourite spot, but you'll have to wait and see.
Question number 4. Do I come from a farming or a farm life background?
Not really, no. My father has a nursery, but I wouldn't really call that farming. Yeah, I mean, I was driving tractors from when I was as soon as I could reach the pedals. So I guess that's had quite the impact in the man-child you see before you.
Question 5. What do I think is the best purchase in the shed?
This is a difficult one, because it's like choosing between my children, trying to find a favourite child. Now, I can't really go down between two of them. And frankly, that's Jupiter, because Jupiter kickstarted everything and I love it to pieces. But in terms of value for money and reliability, it's got to be Humpty. That dump truck is absolutely fantastic. It has not failed to start since I bought it and we got it running that initial time. It has been so very useful for moving absolutely everything about in the shed. It's done some favours for our landlords. I've actually used it as a dump truck. So, best value for money? Yeah, it's Humpty. It's got to be Humpty.
Question number 6. What is my least favourite item in the shed?
That's a hard question. Least favourite is... Again, it's like making me choose which of my kids I don't like as much. That said... I don't have an answer for that. The thing that I am not enjoying the most is probably the Supra, just because every time I look at it I go, oh, we've got so much work to do on that. That said, it is an absolutely phenomenally good looking car, and when it's done it's going to be amazing. But probably the Supra. Matt will hate me because he loves that car. He absolutely adores it. It's his favourite thing in the shed. And I certainly don't dislike it. It's just looking at the state of how much work it's going to be. But that's the only reason I would say it less than anything else in there.
Numero 7. What happened to the Rolls Royce, and where is it now?
So I'm sure we've covered this before, but the Rolls Royce went back to its previous owners, the people who gave it to me to look after. And this was for many reasons. Firstly, I was building a collection of my own. Secondly, it had done what we initially got it for, which was to go to a wedding and to transport the bridal party to the wedding, and it did that without any problems, which I was very relieved about. But mostly, it was huge. It was absolutely huge, and it took up a lot of space. I wasn't using it because every time you fired it up, there was a cloud of smoke erupted from the engine, and it gave off a very candle wax smell because it was leaking petrol, oil, and water. And I spoke to the owners and they were, oh yeah, it's just it dribbles a bit onto the engine, and when you turn it on, it burns off. But when the car's not entirely yours, it's alarming when it's smoking. So we didn't really use it. It was horrifically inefficient. I think the tank held over £100 worth of petrol, and that's the only reason that the needle would move slowly, because it had so much fuel. It had a 6.8 litre V8, and it just, I don't know what it did with the fuel. Like Jupiter makes a lot of noise and you get a sense of power, but that just didn't do anything. It just did nothing. It was relatively nice to be in. I mean, it was nice driving around in a Rolls, but basically it had enough problems with it that I didn't want to spend money on a vehicle that was still I was looking after. And so it went back to its previous owners to have the work done, and they basically kept it. And I kind of went, yeah, you might as well hold on to it. They wanted to hold on to it, and I was buying my own stuff and needed the space, because you can fit 2 cars in the space of one very large Rolls Royce. And it's just a vehicle that I wasn't taking out, and it needed a large amount of body work and sorting out. So yeah, I wasn't sad to see it go.
Number 8. Where does my interest in railways come from?
I do not have a single clue. I have no idea. My uncle is quite into his railways, but from my actual side of the family, there is nothing. Not a single connection. There's none of my family have worked on the railways. No one in my immediate family that I know of, looking through my family tree, had any particular interest in the railways. I have absolutely not a clue. I have no idea why I like railways so much. Or why I like old vehicles. None of my family is into vehicles. I'm the only one on this side. My uncle, that side of the family, none of them are interested. My father isn't, my mother isn't, my grandparents were. None of them are interested in vehicles. I have no idea where this obsession with old rusty things come from. Apparently, my mum tells me that when I was 2, I saw Edward from Thomas the Tank Engine, a die-cast model in the window of the post office. And ever since then, I have loved steam engines. That's all there is to it. It's all I've ever known is a love for steam engines and railways.
Question number 9. When will Jeb the International be fixed?
Oh, poor Jeb. Jeb, my dear. The simple truth of that is it will be fixed when the 35 is done and Humpty is done. When they're sorted and I haven't got anything to do with those, we'll start with Jeb. But having a working tractor in the shed is remarkably useful. And I don't want to strip down Jeb and make more projects until we've got some more stuff back together again. But basically, as soon as the present tractory things, Viking, Humpty, and the 35 are sorted, then we'll strip down and attack Jeb. It will run, it will happen. The 35 hopefully will crack on with, now it's got some wheels again, because I want to get it all sorted before the wheels need to go back to the tractor they came off. So hopefully we'll be on it by the end of this year. Hopefully, providing that everything kind of keeps going and we can get back up the shed and the team come back after this long break. But it will happen. I mean, finding a tractor in a garden is an absolutely wonderful thing, and I was so happy to do it and so happy to find it that I will definitely be getting it sorted. It's a lovely little tractor as well. But having seen a good one, I realised how badly Jeb was running. So it's take the head off and see what we need to do. But it's going to be quite a big rebuild, I fear. I mean, that tractor is knackered.
The first of the double digits. Question number 10. What is the story behind the Lotus?
The Lotus dates all the way back to when I was part of JM on Cars. And JM had himself the Avora, the Elise, and he also had, for a brief period, he had 2 Excels. One of them was drivable and the other was a project that the idea was to put a V8 into it. And one of the cars that I'd always fancied, ever since I got into cars, and I fancied this car from before I knew what it was the Lotus Elite. I think it's an amazing looking car. I love the big piece of glass at the back. I love the fact it kind of looks like a sporty estate, and it's got that kind of 70s future. It's retro future now, but kind of this idea of what the future was going to be, and it's an astonishingly pretty car. So I'd rather wanted one for a while, and as I was part of JM on Cars, and at the time he was Mr. Lotus, I wanted Lotus to join in with him. So I kept an eye out because I was convinced that the Elite was the Lotus for me. And it was also, and I think remains, one of the cheaper Lotuses to get hold of. They're not that common, so finding a price for them is a bit difficult. But I thought that was what I wanted. And so I kept an eye out and kept an eye out, as you do, on Gumtree, Car and Classic, eBay. I don't think Facing Marketplace was a thing back then, but certainly I kept a lookout. And I saw my Lotus come up on eBay, and it has a ridiculous bonnet bulge because it's had the engine taken out and a V8 put into it by the previous owner. And I went, that's hideous. It was cheap. I went, no. And then it came up a second time on eBay, a bit cheaper. I was like, no, it's horrid. The third time it came up on eBay, it was a lot cheaper. And so I thought, I can probably sort that bonnet bulge out. I can probably restore it back to how it should look. And so I sent the guy a message saying, I can't afford what you've put it up as. Would you take X? And kind of talked about that I really fancy having the car. I've got somewhere to store it. I'd really like to work on it, bring it back to its life. It's something I've always wanted. And he came back to me and said it was his dad's car who had sadly passed away. He didn't know much about it, but he'd had a couple of people turn up and look at it, and they'd left. So if I said I'd go, I'd definitely take it. He'd take my offer. So I went, yes, not really thinking I was going to get one. And it was sold as a non-runner. It wouldn't start. And he said, I think it's just an electrical fault. But turn the key, nothing happens. And I talked to my friends who have helped me out with lots of things. And they went, yeah, we can sort that. So down we went to London to pick up this car with a trailer. And got to the address. Nice guy, clearly did not know how to drive, never had driven. And it was in the middle of London, so clearly he just walked everywhere. And we looked after this car. I was just like, yep, it's a car. We'll put it on the low loader, on the trailer. We'll get it home. And he went, well, don't you want to look at the engine before you take it? So, well, I've already agreed to take it off your hands. So I was just going to load it up and go. But now you've said that, I'm suspicious. Right? Does it actually have an engine? So I opened up the door and looked around for the bonnet release. And he went, oh, it's that red key. And I looked and saw a red key that looked very strangely like a battery isolation key. At that moment, I got very excited because as I turned it, I realised it was off. So I found the bonnet pull release, released the bonnet, had a look at the engine, went, yep, thank you very much, signed the paperwork. We loaded it onto the trailer with a winch, got in, sat next door to my mate in the Hilux. We got round the corner, and I went, there's a battery isolation switch in there. He went, you're not going to be that lucky. No, I think I'm going to be that lucky. So we drove it back home, drove it up to their workshop, put a fresh battery on it, turned the key, and it fired up. And that's basically the story of the Lotus. We did a couple of things on it. We put a new alternator on it because it wasn't charging. The belts snapped once, so then we put a double pulley on it because the belt snapped when JM was driving, and he carried on driving it with steam pouring out of it. But didn't seem to hurt the engine because the Rover V8s are bulletproof. I mean, this is the stupid thing about the engine. The engine is a 3.5 litre V8, I think. I think it's that one. it generates 10 more horsepower than the original engine that Lotus put into it, despite having twice the number of cylinders and being about twice the weight. So the car had a lot of problems, particularly electrical problems, and it let me down on more than one occasion. Particularly, I filled it up with fuel one day. The cashier was very, very nice about it. And as I walked back to it, I went, it's not going to start. And then it didn't. But I kept driving around, especially it's had the door handles removed. It's got electric switches to open the doors. It's very stupid. But I did enjoy driving it, and it was very light at the back end. It was, you spin the tyres up pulling out of a junction. I drove it in the snow once and spun it at about 10 miles an hour. There was no weight on the back end. Putting the very heavy V8 in the front has totally ruined the handling of the car. And one day, very early on, possibly around episode 1 time of What's Broken Now, so still part of German cars, we were looking at it because there was cracking appearing in the front just over the wheel arch. And as we started to investigate the car, we started pulling it apart to work out where the cracking was coming from, because there's no point just covering it over because it will crack again. We wanted to work out the source. And as chronicled in What's Broken Now 2, 3 and 4, I think, we found that the radiator had been installed inside the fiberglass. It's meant to sit on 2 chassis rails, but the engine being so much bigger meant the radiator couldn't sit there. So that's what happened with it. We realised that the engine was totally ruining the car, putting the radiator inside the fiberglass, called the fiberglass, which is the structure of the car, because it's a fiberglass car, to crack. And that's about as far as we went. So at the moment, it's in bits, and because we have so many other projects on the go, we're not doing anything with it. The plan is to get a 1UZ V8, which is a much smaller and lighter V8. I might have got that wrong. I think that's what it is. Matt knows what he's talking about. That's a Matt thing. And we'll install that. It generates about 200 and something horsepower, possibly upwards towards 3. So it'll be ridiculously powerful. It's very light, it's very small, and it should restore the car back to what it will be. And it will involve having a rewire, a different dash put into it, because it's got the dash out of a Rover SD1, not the nice Lotus one, and just turn it into the special car that the guy before me was trying to do. So that's the story of the Lotus up to now. It's just basically awaiting us having a bit more time and a bit more funds.
Double one, it's question number 11. Who are my favourite industrial steam locomotive builders?
Oh, Andrew Barclay, without a shadow of a doubt. I absolutely love Andrew Barclays. I think they are an absolutely stunning little steam engine design. In fact, if I ever had the money, it is an Andrew Barclay that I would be looking to buy. I think they're magnificent. So if the channel ever gets big enough, there will be an Andrew Barclay. I will acquire an Andrew Barclay.
Question 12. What is the situation with the USA trip, and when will it be happening?
That's a very good question, and I have no idea. As soon as we can travel again, we will travel again. But it rather depends on the global thing that's going on, which I think I can now say on YouTube, but I'm not going to just in case. As soon as we can travel again, me and Matt will reorganise. We have a lot of stuff to do there. The amusing thing is there is now more things lined up because you lovely people have got in contact with more stuff to do out there. And if any of you are in the States and have particular interesting vehicles, railways, particularly railways, that you could get us in or would like us to drive interesting vehicles, do get in contact. We'd love to try and work into our plan, whether it's this year or looking at coming over again next year, the year after, etc. We have a road trip planned and lots of exciting stuff planned, so it will happen. We quite like the idea of going in the fall to see all the amazing colours in the Appalachian Mountains. Whether it actually happens and when, I don't know, but it will happen. We definitely will be going back to the States. But at the moment, your guess is as good as mine, frankly.
Unlucky for some, it's question 13. What is my favourite Australian locomotive?
Either 3801, which I know is a bit of a cop-out answer, but that is an incredible looking locomotive, and I'm so happy to see it back in steam. I'd love to see it in person. Or the 520 class. They are just the most amazingly large and brutish looking express engines. I think they're fantastic.
Question 14. What railway would I like to visit in Australia?
Particularly, I would like to visit the Puffing Billy Railway. It's the second oldest in the world, and some of the locomotives and the stock they have there are absolutely fantastic. So that's somewhere I'd love to visit, and if anyone's watching who's part of it, if you could arrange for us to come and do a Lawrie Goes Loco on basically anything there, that would be amazing. So thank you very much.
Question number 15. Is Jupiter named after the fire engine in Fireman Sam?
Not really. I mean, that was a nice tie-in, and I suppose it is the only name for a fire engine, but really it came from the fact that it was big and red, and I was like thinking of things that I could call it, and I was like, Jupiter, big red planet, big red machine, Jupiter. And then about 5 minutes after I decided that was the name, somebody went, oh, that's because of Fireman Sam's thing. And it really just has stuck. Most of the vehicles in the shed have a name, but Jupes is the only one that is, apart from Humpty, but Jupes is almost the only one that is universally referred to as Jupes or Jupiter. We never call it the Dennis. Everything else, like Redruth gets called the Dodge, the MR2s get called MR2s, and the Fergie gets called the 35. The Peugeot gets called the Peugeot rather than Legacy. They all get called what they are rather than name. Jupiter is the one that really, her name is very much her name.
Question the 16th. Do I have any plans to do a full restoration on the Dennis RS130?
No, we have no plans at the moment to do a full restoration on Jupes. We're doing what she needs to keep her on the road, but I have absolutely no desire to take her apart. Once we've got her working this time round, providing she doesn't break again, I have no plans to do anything major. I've got to lift the roof, we've got to drill out the roof, lift it, replace the seals, and then rivet it back down because it's leaking. Not that that matters so much now she's indoors. She needs a good tidy up, the paint needs to be spruced up, the paint needs to be redone on the roof. Once we've re-put the fuel line into it, she shouldn't leak anymore, so that should be that sorted. And there are a couple of pieces underneath that need the attention of Martin with his welding torch. And she should be good. I mean, I don't know what she'll break now, but she will no doubt break something because she always does. Because it's Jupiter and it's just what it does is break. But no, she's pretty good. It needs, hopefully from this point forward, just maintenance rather than major work. I might, when the Dodge is done, if and when the Dodge is done, I might look at stopping Jupiter and doing some more heavy restoration on it if it requires it. But frankly, I like the idea of having them both working, so until she needs it, no. I'm going to keep trying to keep her patched up and going for as long as possible. To be fair, she's pretty good. She is pretty good.
Question number 17. What is my favourite locomotive?
That's fairly easy. It's 294266. My own engine's my favourite. I mean, I love the 48 anyway because it's so cute, but your own engine's got to be your favourite engine, hasn't it? Really. I mean, I love it. And the connection with Sir William, that makes it so much more special. You know, Sir William was a hero of mine growing up, and to have met him and to have dealt with him and to have bought an engine off him, and for him to have liked me that much to let me take on and look after it, and then for Lady McAlpine to allow me to name it in his honour. I mean, it's just, there can be no competition for what my favourite engine is. It's Sir William, always. I love that little thing to pieces. It's one of the best things that I've ever managed to do, is get that loco. And she's my favourite, hands down. She's my favourite.
Question number 18. What is my favourite engine that I have driven outside of Lawrie Goes Loco? So something that I've crewed normally in my normal volunteering.
I was very lucky and I got to drive 78018, which is the standard 2 that got stuck in the snowdrift in the famous film Snowdrift 8 Beats Gill. And I got to fire that when it was on hire to the Nene Valley Railway, and then the rep said would I go driving it, and it was absolutely incredible, absolutely magnificently, wonderfully incredible. So I did very much enjoy that one.
19 questions down. If I didn't buy the Ruston, would I still be looking for a Ruston 48DS?
Yes, I would be. The time period between looking at the first Ruston 48 that I wanted to buy, and that I agreed to buy, and then the sale fell through, and actually getting 294266 is, I think, 4 years. So if I hadn't got 294266, there were a number of other Ruston 48s that I was looking at and that I was interested in and had expressed an interest in, which have since changed hands. So if I hadn't got 294266, I envision I would have probably ended up with one of these other 48s. And knowing what I know now about the condition of some of them and the one that I almost bought, I'm very happy with the one that I've got, because mine's not actually that bad compared to a couple of the ones I was looking at. But very much as soon as I saw their first Ruston 48 that was for sale, my heart was set on getting a Ruston 48.
Question 2 lots of 10. 20! If I was to buy a second locomotive, what would it be?
Oh, that depends entirely on money. If I had the money, as I said earlier, I love Andrew Barclay's, and I would absolutely adore to have a little Andrew Barclay shunting steam engine, like a little 14-inch, something like that. I would absolutely love that. I would love a little Andrew Barclay. Would absolutely adore it. But the channel would have to be quite a lot bigger, and for me to have that kind of money that I could buy an Andrew Barclay. I do want to buy another locomotive. At the moment, I'm not looking because I need to sort out my own engine first. There's a number of diesel shunters I know of that are in desperate need of a home. And these aren't ones in preservation. These are all ones that are either languishing in sidings or scrap yards or various places still in industrial service where they remain. So at some point, another locomotive will turn up on the channel. 2 of them I actually looked at before I bought 294266. I went and investigated. So at some point, yes, I will buy another locomotive. It will probably end up being a diesel, but it depends on how well the channel does, because it basically will depend on YouTube really working and having enough disposable income to buy one. So at the rate we're at the moment, maybe in like a decade, maybe.
The 21st question. Will I be coming to film with any railways in the southwest area?
Yes, we will. Whereas we're talking to 4 or 5 railways down there, and before this whole thing kicked off, we actually had dates set with one of them to go down and visit. So as soon as we can go outside again, yes, we'll definitely be heading back down to that part of the world. So that's going to be awesome.
Question 22. What is the long-term plan with the tractors?
Well, really with the tractors, it's to get them working and just potter around and enjoy driving them around on the road. My main desire with the tractors is to have enough of them to, on a nice summer's evening, a couple of us meet up at the shed, fire them up and drive down to the pub, have a drink, have something to eat and trundle back again. That's my main idea, is I want to be able to just drive them around. There have been a couple of offers of work for them, and frankly I think that would be really, really good fun to go and actually use them commercially, and maybe they can pay back a bit of the money that I've had to throw at them to get them working again. So yeah, basically just drive around and enjoy them, and yeah, do the odd job, but mostly just, I want to take them to shows, I want to take them on tractor rallies, take them on drives. That's what I want to do, just enjoy and give them a nice retirement. That said, one of the things I said when I got my 35 was I know a couple of people down in the Forest of Dean who do tractor rallies through the forest off-road and all kinds of exciting stuff. And I said I wanted to take my 35 down there and do one rally with them. And I want to drive it there. My 35 has never been out of Suffolk, and I think it would be an absolutely super idea to drive it all the way down to the Forest of Dean, providing the weather's nice. If the weather's not nice, it will be an absolutely terrible idea, and probably my worst decision yet. But it's something I want to do, and hopefully, if all goes well, we'll do that next year.
Question 23. Do I have any plans to kit out Jupiter's lockers? And if I do, am I going to use period equipment or modern equivalents?
Not currently. I really like the idea of having her kitted out, but at the moment I'm more worried about getting her working and getting her reliable so I actually trust her and enjoy driving her again. And also, it's very expensive getting period and the right equipment for it. I mean, if I saw something that I thought that was cool, I wouldn't be too bothered on the period if it was fire engine related. That said, it would be really nice. I love the idea of opening a locker and it being full and correct. So if you've got anything and it's the right period and you want to donate it to Jupiter, brilliant. I'd love that. Thank you very much. But at the moment, I'm not really looking. I like the idea of it, but it's really expensive, like really expensive. I think I'd rather have 2 fire engines with incomplete lockers than 1 fire engine with complete lockers. So that's the truth of it, really. I mean, she's an industrial fire engine. That's the state she's in, is her during her industrial days. And as a result, I guess the equipment might be a bit more eclectic in her. So yeah, it would be a lovely thing to do, but I'm not actively looking at the moment.
Question 24. Apart from the UK, which other countries have I been to in order to see steam locomotives?
So I've been all over the world looking at steam engines. I managed to go to Iceland and I saw the 2 steam engines, the 2 steam locomotives they have in Iceland, and that's all they've got. They have 2 locos and that's it, and I saw both of them. Then I've been to America and I've been to Colorado and did the railway museum they've got there, and then did the Forney Museum in Denver, and which is where they've got a big boy, and I particularly wanted to see a big boy, which is phenomenal. For those of you who have not seen one up close and personal, my God, they're massive, like fantastic. And then I did the Durango and Silverton Railway, which is something that I had always wanted to do. The K36, K37 class, whatever they are, I'm sure somebody will correct me in the comments, I think are one of the most beautiful steam engines ever. They are just fantastic, and the whistles, they sent a shiver down my spine. They're just magnificent sounding things. And I was very lucky because the week I was there, they had a photo charter running. So I got to go on this charter. It was snow everywhere, up to my knees. And it was fantastic seeing the locomotive work its way through the just stunning scenery that you can't get to anywhere else. You have to go via the railway. And these aren't stops. They stop the train in the middle of nothing. And you'd get out, it would back up, and then drive past. And it was fantastic. My only real regret on that whole experience was that I was only just starting to take photos, and I was nowhere near as accomplished as I am now. And I would love to have been able to go back knowing what I know now, because I could get some really, really good photos. And what I got there was okay, but not stunning. So yeah, that was good. That was very good. Then I've been to Ireland and done steam in the Republic of Ireland, then France, Holland and Belgium. Then I've done steam in Germany, I've done the Harz, and I've also done, they still have industrial steam working in Germany. It's mostly fireless engine. In fact, it's entirely fireless engines, but I've gone and seen some of the fireless engines they work that are working in factories in Germany. In fact, I've got a footplate ride on one of those. That was really good fun. Then I've been down to, I've been to what was old Germany, but it's now Poland, behind what was a German engine, but now a Polish engine. Then I've done a lot of steam in Poland. In fact, I think I've been on the footplate of almost every working steam engine in Poland. Then I've done a little bit in the Czech Republic. Then I went down to Bosnia and saw some of the last working steam there. They have some Kreisloks, which are German 210Os, working coal trains, and also a Yugoslavian copy of the USA tank, the S100, working. And I got to see that working as well. So very lucky and got to see that. That was very good. That was a hell of a trip. That was really good seeing them. Then I've been to Botswana with my good friend James, and we saw, maybe 6 months before it stopped, some of the last working steam in South Africa. Worked for a copper mine, bringing the copper ore from the mine to the refinery. That was quite amazing, seeing big engines working big trains properly. And then we saw a bit of steam in South Africa. Then I've been on the footplate a couple of times in New Zealand and seen steam in New Zealand. And I went to China as well. I spent 2 weeks with James, one of my best mates in the entire world, who you saw in the Chasing Giants video. not Kindred, the other James. And we spent 2 weeks in China going around and seeing all the working steam that there was then, all of which bar one has now stopped working, and that one was scheduled to close this summer, and based on the global circumstances, I imagine has closed now. I don't know that, but I wouldn't be surprised. And it was incredible going to China and seeing the steam there. That was a absolutely wonderful experience, and I'm really, really glad that I managed to do it. That was something else. And doing it with one of your best mates in the world made it really special. We had a lovely time in China and saw a whole host of different locomotives, and just, that was good. That was a hell of an experience.
Question number 25. Is my Ruston 48 still working during COVID-19?
Well, I don't know if anybody has actually gone and taken the starter off it before this whole thing started. If the starter's been taken off, then it's probably fixed, so when it's all over it can go back on it. It'll probably work. If not, then no, it's still broken. And even if it was working, nobody can go to the railway, so it wouldn't be doing anything as it was. So it's not the end of the world because it's not missing out on anything.
Question number 26. Aside from Jupiter, what is the best vehicle that I've purchased?
Well, it's got to be Sir William. Sir William is fantastic. I love the Loco to pieces. And to have something that gets or was being used regularly at the railway, and I could turn up occasionally and see it actually being used, that was fantastic. And it's a genuinely wonderful piece of kit, and it completed a long dream of mine to actually own a locomotive. So yeah, that's my favourite vehicle. She's a wonderful thing. She's a beautiful thing.
Number 27. What did I like before steam and diesel locomotives?
I don't know. What do babies like? Bright colours? Shiny things? Things that make noises? I like waving at the dustman, Lawrie. So I guess there's always been like a deep-rooted love of mechanical things and big things that make noise. But basically, it's always been railways. I've always loved steam engines and old things.
Question number 28. Am I into restored, unused, or abandoned train stations?
I wouldn't say I'm into them. I appreciate them. For instance, there's a station on the East Suffolk line at Wickham Market that they've just done a lot of work with, redoing it, making it look nice and kind of putting it back to how it was a bit, and I really like that. I like finding abandoned stations, like when you see it and you know there was a station there. I quite enjoy that. I wouldn't say it's something I actively go out of my way. It's something that if I come across a nice station or a restored station or an abandoned station, I'm like, that's cool, and maybe stop and have a look. But it's not something I would actively go out and do, mainly because I don't have the time. I quite like discovering old railways. I like it when you're driving somewhere, you're like, this used to be a railway here. That's definitely an embankment, or that's the remains of a bridge, or this, that, or the other. I enjoy that. So, kind of.
It's now time for question 29. If I was to completely deck out my Ruston, what livery, lining, or logos would I choose?
I do rather like the idea of putting it into Intercity Swallow livery. I did discuss it at the time, and I was told if I was going to do it, it wouldn't be allowed at the MIDI. And it would be totally wrong for it, but I do think it would be kind of hilarious. So, that's what I'd do. Intercity, black, red, and white with the swallow on the side of it. Failing that, I don't know really. It was blue before. It's definitely not going back to red, and it's definitely not going back to blue. So it's in the colour that it had originally. And I quite like that.
Now we're making some progress. Question number 30. Do I have any plans to restore or buy a steam engine for either the rail or the road in the future?
Very much I have plans to do it. I would truly love to own a traction engine. It's one of my dreams. I'd also rather like a Sentinel steam wagon. And as I mentioned earlier, I would adore an Andrew Barclay. So if I ever have enough money, then yes, certainly. I mean, my big dream is to have a pair of ploughing engines and a field somewhere and just to plough them, because I love ploughing traction engines. They're just incredible machines. but I'd be very happy with a steamroller or a small traction engine trundling around. So if you guys can help share the channel and get us bigger and better and more people knowing of us, then maybe one day it will happen. Hopefully one day, if I'm lucky, one day.
The 31st question. Am I planning on selling any of my vehicles?
Nope. No plans whatsoever.
Question number 32. What made me start Lawrie's Mechanical Marvels?
Well, that's quite a long story. Now, it goes way back to my previous life when I was working in film, and it was during those days I was freelance and I stumbled across JM, of JM on Cars, and we got on very well. We both discussed the thought that we were both pretty sick of the film industry. It's very unreliable, work comes along, you promise stuff, and then it gets cancelled at the last moment, and you end up not having any work or any money from it, and you've said no to other projects, so you suddenly have a gap of no earnings. And we both had enough of it. And he was talking about, he was just about to buy his Lotus Evora and was talking about doing YouTube. And I basically said, oh, I quite like cars if you need a hand. So over the next 3 years, 3 years, 2 and a bit years, 2 and a bit to 3 years, I was his right-hand man and shot basically everything you saw on JM on Cars. So I got to go out in a lot of cars, had a lot of good times, and it was all pretty good. And then he went off to America and left me behind. So I took over running his channel for a bit and produced some videos, and found actually I rather enjoyed that. So when he came back, we talked about me having a regular spot on his channel. And it very quickly at that point became apparent that the kind of content that I like to do and the kind of content that we do now on LMM was not the kind of content that was appreciated by the audience of JM on Cars, who are all in kind of like your faster, more expensive vehicles where we're about broken stuff that's rusty. So JM took the decision that I wasn't going to be part of his channel anymore, and he set up the YouTube channel, which was, I think at that point, known as the Tinkerer. I think that's what it got set up as, and gave it to me to do my own YouTube channel. And so a member of JM's audience came up with the idea of calling the channel Lawrie's Mechanical Marvels, because we put the name out for people to come up with a name. And that's what it is. So basically, I had no desire to start my own channel. I had no real want to do it, and my hand was forced. So I guess thank you very much, James, for making this happen.
Question number 33. What is the one preserved line that I haven't been to, but I've always wanted to visit?
I think that would be the Stapfold Barn Railway, because to my everlasting shame, I haven't been there yet, and they have the most incredible variety of of narrow gauge locomotives full stop. It is an absolutely amazing collection, and I've not been there yet, so it's very high on my list. I keep meaning to go, and then something happens and I don't. So yeah, that's where I really, really want to go.
Question the 34th. The pumps in the fire engines, do they work? And if they don't, will they ever work again?
Jupiter's pump did work, and I did a lot of things with it. It filled up some swimming pools, some ponds, it watered a rugby pitch when their sprinkler system failed. It's been to several steam railways and been used for galas filling up steam engines. And then the pump developed a leak, and so it started mixing water with its internal oil for the gearbox. And so at that point we took it out, we couldn't get it apart, and then Craig came along and he took it away, rebuilt it, and then he hasn't been up for a while. So it's currently reinstalled in Jupiter, it's connected back up bar some of the smaller fittings, and we're basically waiting for Craig to come back up to test it. It should work, but we feel that as he put all the time and effort into rebuilding the thing, it would be a bit unfair to do it without him. So theoretically, Jupiter's should work fine. Redruth's does work as well. There is a frost protection on it, and that's cracked. It's meant to crack to protect the rest of the pump, and that has broken, and that's the reason that when we tested it, you can hear air rushing into it, and it doesn't really pump very hard. We do have a replacement component to go onto it, so when Redruth works, there's no reason why the pump won't fire up on Redruth as well. So kind of is the answer to that one.
Question number 35. Am I planning on coming to any heritage railways in Ireland?
There's a couple of railways that I'm very interested to visit, and at some point when this is all over, I will be making contact. So if you are part of any railways in Ireland, anyone in the audience is involved in railways over there and would like to get us an invite, I would love to come over and do some of the railways there, because you have some amazing engines and some absolutely stunning bits of scenery. I'd love to get down to the County Down and Downpatrick Railway. I think that's the right name. They've got some cracking engines there that I really would love to go on. And some of the narrow gauge railways as well. There's particularly a couple of things that have just come back into service that I was like, I would love to do that. So yeah, get in contact. We'd love to come over to Ireland.
Question 36 comes from my good friend JM, asking, what one car would I bring home from our American adventure?
Out of everything that we've shown on the channel so far, the Cutlass. Absolutely thought that was amazing. That was incredible. Oh, that or I'd take Trey's Big Siege. Yeah, that the Cutlass, or I'd take Trey's Siege. I did like Trey's Siege. Probably Trey's Siege. Yeah. Although I could get one over here. So I think it would probably be the Cutlass. I thought the Cutlass was awesome. All the tractors. I mean, I would love to take the massive truck and have that, because that would be great fun, just trundling around the roads over here, because nobody would know what to do with it. Although the Fiero was quite cool too. No, the Cutlass. I think it's the Cutlass. I love the Cutlass. That was an incredible car.
Numero 37. How hard is it to get locomotives to review for Lawrie Goes Loco?
It's a challenge. It's getting easier as more and more people know who we are and people are actually enjoying what we do, and as our reputation grows, that does make it an awful lot easier. To start off with, it was quite a challenge, and it's still not easy, but we are getting offers to do things, so that's good. Particularly like the Talaclin coming forwards and asking us if we'd like to go visit them. That was a huge bonus for us, and obviously that then helps with other places. So it's not easy, and yeah, there are a lot of railways that we ask who come back and say no, or try us again when you're a bit bigger. So yeah, it's getting easier, but it's still not that easy. So if any of you are in part of railways and you'd like LMM to come and visit, please do invite us. We'd love to come if you'd ask us. And if you own an engine or are part of a group, then yeah, again, we'd absolutely love to come along. So yeah, the more we do, the easier it will get. So yeah, please invite us.
Number 38. Would I consider featuring a full-size American diesel?
Oh yeah, 100%. If I could, 100% would. If any of you have got full-size American diesels or in part of groups, yep, certainly let me know. I would love to do one. Some of the engines you have over there are just amazingly big, like nothing radiates power like some of the diesels you've got. Something like the GP39s, yeah, even those are like, they're iconic, and I'm like, yeah. So yes, absolutely anything, totally 100% be up for that, without any shadow of a doubt. I mean, pretty much any locomotive, guys, anything I would be up for.
It's the last of the 30s. Question 39. Am I intending to go back to the Severn Valley Railway?
Yes, we are planning to go back to the Severn Valley. We were planning to go shoot an episode of Chasing Giants at the Gala, but obviously that's not happened due to things going on in the world at the moment. So yes, we will be going back. I particularly enjoy their all-night running they do for their autumn galas. That's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing to be on a steam engine in the dark, and it's amazing watching steam engines trundling through all night long. So yes, we will definitely 100% be going back. It's fantastic. I mean, I'd love to do some filming with them, but I think that's possibly unlikely at the moment.
Now we're getting somewhere. Question 40. Can I do a guided tour around Jupiter?
Yes, that's an idea that's been thrown around several times, and it is something that we will definitely do at some point. Basically, I want the truck to be working and actually give it a clean, make it look presentable before we do it. But at some point, yes, we'll give you a full guided tour of Jupiter. I know I've been saying it for about a year now, but it is something that will happen as part of a video with the truck where we showcase the truck. But it needs to work first. So yes, it will be a video that is coming up.
Question number 41. What is my favourite standard gauge steam locomotive?
This is a difficult one and it changes quite a bit. Generally, it stays around one of these. It's Green Arrow because I just think it's an amazing piece of kit. I think it's an exceptionally good looking locomotive and it was a very good locomotive. There's just something about Green Arrow. I just think it's amazing. If not that, it's 1369, which is the little outside cylinder pannier tank. I love pannier tanks, but it's just so much more diminutive, and with the outside cylinders, it's just so cute. Honestly, it's one of my favourite locomotives. It's just gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. And also PT 4765 out in Poland. It was the first big engine that I got on the footplate of, and I've had some amazing experiences and memories out there in Poland. And it's just an exceptionally massive piece of kit. And you stand next door to it and it just radiates this sense of power and speed. Yeah, it's just a lovely thing. And I think I have so many happy memories being on the footplate in Poland. I remember once being on the PT, we left on an early morning train and there was a fog across the fields and the sun was coming up and the whole world went golden. And I don't know what Nirvana is, but for me personally, that's about as close as absolute perfection that I have ever got. This big engine thundering along and the world just this incredible, soft, golden, just everywhere, all the fog shining. It was truly, truly magical. And quite often when we're on the footplate, we can get that sensation that we've travelled back in time, maybe even just for a fleeting moment, but it's always there. But particularly that day and on the PT, I was sure I'd done it. I was sure that I'd travelled back 50 years and that was it. It was just incredible. So I think the PT is possibly my favourite. Not just because I think it's an incredible locomotive, but just for the memories that I've got associated with it. Just give it that edge and just make it something else.
Question number, answer to life, the universe and everything, 42. Have I reviewed any traction engines or steamrollers?
No, not yet, but we have some in the pipework to review. In fact, we had one that was kind of being arranged, but now we can't do it because of this situation. But there will be some road steam coming up on the channel in the not too distant future, assuming we can get outside again. But that will happen. That definitely will happen.
Number 43. Can I review a 1940s or a 1950s American car?
I would love to. If anyone's got an American car from the 40s or the 50s and would like LMM to have a look at it, then yes, 100%. We would love to do that. Absolutely love to. I'd love cars from that period. So yes, and if not, I'm hoping to kind of drive something from that kind of period when we get back into America, whenever we can get back to America.
Question number 44. How much did my Ruston cost?
It cost money. Not as much as you would think. It was remarkably cheap for what it is. And we now have it valued at a little over 10 grand. And it was a lot less than that.
Time for question 45. Do I watch Western Champlin's YouTube?
As with a lot of other YouTubers, I don't actually really watch YouTube. I don't really have the time. We're normally so busy trying to make content, create videos, work a day job, and try and keep anything else working in the shed that I don't really get the time to watch it. I don't watch television, and very rarely get to watch anything on YouTube. So no.
Question 46. If I could drive any locomotive still in existence anywhere in the world, what would it be and why?
I think it would have to be the big boy, just because nothing else will ever compare. Like somebody could say, oh, I drove X, I drove Y. I'm Flying Scotsman. It's Flying Scotsman and the big boy. Big boy because it just must be an incredible experience to be on all that much power and to literally drive the biggest working steam engine in the world. And Flying Scotsman, just because you could say, I've driven Flying Scotsman, which is, everybody says, oh, my granddad did it, but to actually go, no, I've driven it, that would be lovely. But I don't think anybody would ever be able to top to go, no, I've driven the big boy. The big boy is definitely, I think, the big boy is the dream, isn't it? Drive the big boy. That would be. And if Green Arrow ever gets restored, I'd love to drive Green Arrow because, as I said, I really like it.
It's now time for question 47. Would I consider reviewing classic lorries?
Yes, we would. I've actually got a couple of classic lorries lined up, ready to be shot as soon as we can go outside again. They were both things that were meant to happen and now haven't. But yes, classic lorries will be something that is turning up as part of LMM drives. So I'm excited for that. And I would love to have a classic lorry as well. So yes, they will be turning up. And I'm very excited to get on with that.
Question number 48. Given the choice between driving a locomotive on the Romney Hythe of Dymchurch Railway or the Welsh Highland and the Festiniog Railways, which would I prefer and why?
See, when I read that question, my immediate thought was the Welsh Highland, because firstly, the garrets there are incredible. The scenery is magnificent. But then I thought a bit more and thought, well, actually, the Romney Hythe, you're driving miniatures, so you're actually driving them at what feels fast, and you're sat so close to the ground, you really feel like you're working an engine or what it should be doing. You're really working that engine fast, hard, driving on the reverser, and kind of, it is a mainlining miniature. But I think the Welsh Highland takes it just because the scenery is spectacular, and I would love a go of the garrets. I've driven on the Wells and Walsingham on the little garrets they have there, and I really do like garrets. So I think the Welsh Highland has it for me. That would be a dream, actually, to drive on the Welsh Highland. I mean, I certainly would be straight there at the Romney Hythe if Romney Hythe guys wanted me to come down. That'd be great too. Just saying.
Almost there, guys. Question number 49. If I could go to any railway to film an episode of Lawrie Goes Loco, which one would it be?
There's a couple here. The Norfolk Railway I would love to go to. It's my kind of local big railway, and they have an absolutely amazing selection of locomotives at the moment. It's a very pretty line. It's a very nice line. I know quite a few of the volunteers there. And yeah, they have an just incredible lineup of locomotives at the moment. They're very lucky and they're in a very strong position. So I'd love to go there and film with some of their engines. I'd also absolutely love to go to the Great Central, because in the UK, that's as close as I'm ever realistically going to get to be able to drive something that's akin to being on the main line, like thundering along the double track sections there. Yeah, that's just, I think that's what dreams are made of. That's pretty good. Also, I'd love to go and do something at the Stutfold Barn Railway, just because of the variety of engines there to be able to review is just, that's the collection there. I think I could do like a year's worth of Lawrie Goes Loco, and in fact several years worth just there on the engines they've got there from all over the world. It's a phenomenal collection. And finally, the Foxfield Railway. I'd love to tackle the gradient out of the colliery with a train behind me. Because so often on Lawrie Goes Loco, I say that I'd like to be able to test a locomotive and see what it's like. Yeah, that's something you really get to test an engine. So that, definitely Foxfield. Definitely that would be great.
The Big 5-0. Question 50. How did I find out about my locomotive?
I had looked at buying a Ruston 48, and I found one for sale. I talked to the seller and I'd agreed to buy it on the condition that it was as they said it was, and it fired up and it ran. However, I was working on a film and I wasn't able to go see it for 3 months. And a couple of weeks later, he dropped me an email and went, I've sold it elsewhere. So that's when I started looking for one. And over the next couple of years, I emailed a couple of railways and kind of inquired about ones which were looking like they needed love. And a bit later, I got the list of where all the Ruston 48s were. And there were about 40 engines on this list, and it was 15 years out of date. And I got called to work on a film. I worked on The Detectorists for BBC, which is a great series. And I was just a driver on this. I wasn't doing my normal AD thing. I was just driving. And it was a great job. Really enjoyed it. But some days were frantic and some days were absolutely dead. It was pick up the cast, drive to set, sit in the car, drive everybody home at the end of a 12-hour day. So after reading about 7 novels, I got bored and decided I'd update the list. So I just emailed every railway that had a loco and just went, hello there, I've got a list of all the Ruston 48s. I don't suppose you've still got yours. If you do, does it work? If it's gone somewhere else, where has it gone? I'm trying to update the list that's 15 years out of date. And I found out, I think, 4 or 5 have been scrapped. About two or three of them have just disappeared off the face of the earth. I can't find any record of them being scrapped. But like the museums they were at don't exist anymore, and they're so old that the museum has no internet record of it whatsoever. There was one mistake on the list. It wasn't a 48, it was an 88. Half dozen, there's about 30 something survivors now. Maybe half of them work, and quite a few of them are under restoration. And I emailed Sir William McAlpine's private railway. I didn't email the man himself, I just emailed the railway. Do you still have it? Blah, blah, blah. And imagine my surprise when Sir William McAlpine emailed me back and said something along the lines of, yes, Lawrie, I still have it. Nice to hear from you. I'd be very interested in a copy of your list when it's still updated. And if you happen to find anybody who's looking for a Ruston 48, I'm looking to dispose of mine. To which I went, oh my God. And I was with JM on cars at this time when this email came back. And I think we were in Nando's. And I remember running around the table 3 times, trying to read the email a second time, and not being able to, running around the table again, and then had to get James to read it to me to make sure I hadn't misinterpreted what was said. Because I was like, I think he's offering me his engine. And he was. So we arranged a date, and I went down and met him, saw the loco. I took our Loco Super from the Mid-Suffolk and 2 of my friends who were good with machines. And we got the thing fired up and got it running. And Sir William took a liking to me, and we discussed a price, and I walked away having shook his hand at a price a lot lower than he originally said, and sat in the car in a kind of a daze with the other guys going, well, what happened? I was like, oh, he wanted X amount. And they went, oh, well, that's a fair price for it. You know, we'd have lent you the money to get that. I was like, yeah, okay. But he then offered me this amount. And I was like, why didn't you take it? And I was like, well, I didn't have that. You idiot. We'd have given you the money to get that. That was a steal. I was like, yeah. I've bought it for this. Really? Well, I think so. I've shook his hand. So I had to send him an email the next day saying, dear Sir William, just to confirm what's happened, because I can't quite believe it. So yeah, that's the story of how it happened. It was just, I was very lucky. I happened to email him at the right time when he was thinking of getting rid of it, and he just took a liking to me. I was so very fortunate. You hear these stories all the time of being in the right place at the right time, and I think particularly in owning locomotives, it's very much about being in the right place at the right time. And yeah, it could not have happened in a better way. It was like it was out of a movie. It was just fantastic. And of course I got to meet Sir William, which was a true honour.
The penultimate question, 51. What is my favourite gauge?
Probably going to be boring and say standard. I like standard gauge. I do like Cape Gauge. Cape Gauge is great just because engines look ridiculous running on it. You have these massive great engines. Actually, it's possibly Cape Gauge just because of the size of the engines, so they look so weird running on narrow gauge, but you have engines bigger than the British loading gauge. Yeah, I like that. I think they're fantastic.
Well, guys, here we are. It's the final question. Thanks for staying with us. Why is Toby visible in the video I did with 813?
So the East Anglian Rail Museum has got a replica Toby, a replica Thomas, and a replica Percy. The Toby is a diesel shunter that I can't remember what it is. That's basically got a shed built around it, which trundles up and down. That recently came back into service. They've got an RSH, which is number 54 pen green, which is done up to look like Thomas. I say look like Thomas. It doesn't actually look anything like Thomas. It's a blue engine with a face on it, but it is a licensed Thomas. And they've got a little Bagnall called Jubilee, which is a absolutely gorgeous engine, which has been completely ruined by painting it into neon green to make it look a little bit like Percy. Again, it doesn't look anything like Percy, but there it is. So the engines are it's the way the museum managed to survive is by running Days Out with Thomas Days. So it pays for their overhauls, it keeps them going, and that's why they're there. I really hope you've enjoyed this, finding out a bit more about me and my thoughts on things. And if you had a question and you've had it answered, I hope you got an answer you liked. If you did answer the question and we somehow managed to miss it and didn't pick it up, I'm really sorry. Remember, we have got our Discord. You can come and chat to us in the Discord, or consider being a Patreon. You can start being a Patreon and get everything from a single $1 a month, which isn't that much. And we do a podcast, and which when we will take questions and we'll answer it. So there's your chance for us to all discuss and answer your questions at that point. But at the end of that, I hope you're still here after an hour and a bit of sitting listening to me rattle on about nonsense. I hope you've enjoyed it. Is this the kind of thing you'd like to see more often, like Q&As? Let us know. In the meantime, though, guys, thank you so much for helping LMM to come to this size. This one really is to all of you. You guys are fantastic. Thank you so much. I know I keep saying it, but we are truly blown away by how much you guys seem to like us and by the support. It's absolutely ridiculous. I say we didn't dare dream. I guess we hoped that the channel would do this well, but I don't think any of us really believed that you guys would enjoy it this much. So thank you. You've made us all very happy, and we feel very humbled and very excited for the future. So as we kind of alluded to in that, the bigger we get, the more we can do, the more opportunities that come to us. There are some very big things that we were talking about doing before this all started, which involved including talking to some major manufacturers about actually doing stuff with manufacturers and other railways and other events and other things we were looking at doing. So thank you very much. You guys are awesome. We couldn't do any of this if it wasn't for you guys supporting us on the other side of the camera. So yeah, cheers guys. Thank you very much. In the meantime, please like, subscribe, share some of our videos with your friends. They probably don't want to see this one, but share some of our good videos with your friends and leave a comment. Let us know if we answered what you wanted, if you want to know more, and yeah, that kind of stuff. Thank you guys. Chat to us in the Discord. We will be organising some meets in the future, so you guys can come and see us. I know for some of the guys in the UK, we're going to be doing Lemons whenever we can get out again, and that will be a good opportunity to meet up. But thanks for watching, guys. If you've enjoyed this, click over there for the first half of the 25,000 subscribers special, which was with the entire team, or click over there for a bit more information about us for the 20,000 subscribers special. And if you want something a bit more exciting, then down there will be the 10k subscriber special. Cheers, guys. You're the best. My fire's gone out.